Hello, everybody. I'm Akash Hiramad. I'm a senior analyst at FXStreet, and today we're going to be taking a look at the relative strength index, what it is, and how to use it from a trading perspective and from the perspective of an analyst on how he or she should be interpreting RSI and writing about it in his or her analysis. Right. So, very briefly, RSI, also known as relative strength index, is a momentum indicator, right? So what it means is that it measures the speed and change of price movements, right? And since it takes input from the price for it to be calculated, it is a lagging indicator, right? It's an oscillator indicator, which essentially means that it oscillates between levels, right? Like a pendulum, right? So the RSI oscillates between 0 to 100, and there are three important levels apart from 0 to 100. 0 and 100, which are the 30, 50, and 70 levels. The 30 is the oversold, 50 is the mean level, 70 is the overbought level, right? 50, or the mean or the equilibrium level, acts as support or resistance depending on where the RSI is, right? That is basically all there is to know about RSI, right? Let's get into what overbought, oversold levels are, how to look at it, and how you should be interpreting it, right? A lot of, since this indicator is very popular among the beginners, right? They generally, the misconceptions is that if the price goes into the overbought zone condition, uh, technically it is bearish, but if you trade based on RSI, you would know that you wouldn't short an asset just because it heads into the overbought zone, and you wouldn't buy an asset just because it heads into the oversold zone, right? The understanding of RSI is much more nuanced. So the let me address a mistake, right? Like a lot of the writers at FXStreet, the new writers that I see, the mistake that you guys do is basically if you see that the RSI is going south, you would say it's bearish, regardless of where it is, right? If the RSI is pointing up, you say it's bullish, even though it's in an oversold condition, right? For example, if you would look at, if the RSI was over here, you would say it's bullish, right? It's not. Or if the RSI was over here, you would definitely say that it is bullish, right? You would definitely say this is bullish, but it's not, right? The understanding of RSI is much more nuanced, right? So let's address that. A common beginner mistake is that, right? This is very important, right? So how do you identify like if the price is bearish or bullish when looking at the RSI, right? The first things first, you have to take a look at what the price is doing and where it is, right? For example, for this price action, I would just mark this out as a resistance level, right? The price has recently flipped like this. It was support all the way up until 23rd July, and after that, the price breached this. Now it's getting rejected, right? So technically, this is now a resistance level. So the price is at resistance level, and it's attempting to move higher, and depending on this daily close over here, you can see there's a massive swing failure pattern, or a failure to break out, right? So technically, if you just look at the price action without the RSI, you would note that this is bearish because it is because Bitcoin is now attempting to breach a resistance level, and it has failed not once but twice, right? So first thing, my first analysis is that price is at resistance, right? This is my first understanding, right? The next thing is, let's take a look at what the RSI is doing, right? The RSI has slipped below 50, which, if you look at the RSI over here, right? RSI flips above 50, price rallies, everything is good, and the RSI slowly starts coming down. It encounters the 50, which is a support level, breaks that, and then attempts to break out above it again. There's a failure, goes back down. Attempts to go above 50 again. There's a failure, comes back down, and now it's attempting to go higher, right? Go above 50, right? Clearly, it has succeeded going above 50 when you look at the RSI. But if you look at the price has failed to breach, right? So now I would say RSI is above 50 after the daily close, which makes it potentially bullish, but investors need to wait for more price action. This is how I would interpret this, right? Let's say tomorrow there's a daily candlestick close, and you can see that the RSI is coming back down. Now, as you can see, the RSI has finally closed below this, right? So the chances of Bitcoin price moving above this is unlikely, because the RSI, the Bitcoin has basically flipped this support into resistance, which, it's failed to breach twice, and the thrice over here, and the RSI is also going down, right? So you can see after this overbought, oversold level, Bitcoin price has never done that, and now it's basically retracing, and it's potentially going to go lower. So let's see what happens. Right, there's finally a breakdown, a massive move. Price comes back down. Price is in the RSI is in the oversold level. Now this is bearish, right? If you were gonna write this is bearish, well and good, it makes sense, right? I'm not gonna interfere. But when the price is starting to recover, right? See, there's another rejection here at 50. Okay, now this is an interesting development, right? If you look at the RSI right now, you can notice that it has been getting rejected at the 50 for a while now, right? Roughly 57 days, and the RSI has not, breached 50. Right? It's finally dipped into the overbought zone. But one thing that you can observe here is that the RSI is trending higher. It's been producing higher lows since this point here on 18th August, right? So far, it's produced in the last 26 days, it's produced one, two, three higher lows, right? And if you look at the price, it's done the exact opposite. Prices produce lower lows. Now, at the start of this particular explanation, I mentioned that RSI is a momentum indicator. It indicates if the momentum is bullish or bearish. Right now, there is a clear increase in momentum, but the price is still going down, which means that there is an increase in momentum, right? But the price has not reflected that. Now, this pattern where the price and the RSI basically diverge away from each other are is very key, right? It's they are called divergences. In this case, it is a bullish divergence because the RSI has been producing higher lows. And the way this pattern resolves is that the underlying asset shoots up. That's what I've written here. Divergence is when the price makes a new high or low that is not confirmed by the RSI. For example, the price has produced a new low here, but the RSI has not confirmed it, right? Which is when the divergence is created, right? These patterns often lead to reversal in price, right? So far, the trend has been down. It's now going to reverse, and the uptrend is going to start. So let's see what happens to the price. Price continues going higher, right? That is how you look at the RSI. Just because it is pointing south doesn't mean it's bearish. Just because it's pointing north doesn't mean it's bullish. You have to also take into consideration the price action. For example, right? In right now, I would mark this out as a support level, right? The price has not hit the overbought zone, right? It's a little below the overbought zone, but it is now it does look like it's going to go lower, right? So there is a support level here. As long as support level holds, the RSI, as long as something like this happens, right? The RSI is going to do something like this, and then we have a chance to go higher. But if this support level breaks, right, then the chances of the price going lower is pretty high. It's very similar to this particular pattern that you see here, right? So let's see what happens, right? So far, so good. It was a resistance level here. Price flipped it, and now it's acting as a support. Boom, boom, boom. Price has come back down, and currently we have 9 hours until the New York close. We don't know what's going to happen. Right. So now, if you look at the RSI, it's around the 50 level. Does it mean that it's bearish now? Right. I wouldn't say so. Why? Because like this support level here, or like the support level that was flipped into resistance level, the 50 also serves as support and resistance level. Now, there is a possibility that the price could, move sideways over here. Right now, there's a possibility that the price could move sideways here, right? In which case, the RSI could also bounce and then move into the overbought zone, chill here for a while, and then come back down. Now, this is a valid scenario. If I were writing a TA here, what I would say is, although the although Bitcoin price looks like it's breaking below the key support level at 27,131, investors need to wait for further confirmation to flip bearish. On the other hand, bulls could be optimistic because a bounce at the support level here could send Bitcoin price higher. Now, why would Bitcoin price go higher? Right? There is a lot of liquidity resting here, which will be addressed in a different video. So just to collect this liquidity, Bitcoin price could make a fake move down, recover above this, and then push higher and collect the liquidity or clear these highs basically. Right, so that's a very possible scenario for Bitcoin. Right, so the first scenario, RSI could do something like this. And second scenario, the RSI could, when you break this down, come back down into the overbought zone. Anything could happen. But right now, if you just looked at the RSI, it is not bearish. It's 50-50, right? If anything, I would be bullish on Bitcoin right now, considering that it's recently flipped above 50, right? For example, you can see here after spending nearly 50 or nearly 2 months below the 50 level, it's recently flipped above the 50 level. So we could get something like this over here before price proceeds to go higher, produces another higher high. So yeah, that's what I'm expecting. And again, right, if you just look at the price action history, you you can basically judge what the asset is going to do. For example, let me see if I can find a good scenario. Yep, let's take a good look at this, right? The RSI flipped below 50, or RSI, slipped below 50 here on the 5th of April. Price attempted to move higher, but stayed below 50. Attempted to break 50, rejected. Second rejection, attempted. Third rejection. Finally, the price flipped above 50, right? Now it produced a fake out over here, and then the RSI moved higher. Price produced a higher high. Everything's good, and then goes up, produces another high. Right? This is exactly what I'm expecting to happen in the current price action. Right? We've recently flipped above 50, produced a fake out, and now we're back at 50 again. Right? If you look at this price action, it's pretty much the same. Right? We're back above 50. Attempted to break down. Bulls tried, but bears tried but failed, and now we're once again at 50. Now let's take a look at how the price action reacted over here. Now, at one point, the RSI was clearly below the 50 level, right? If beginners were writing an article based on this particular price action and this particular RSI, they would definitely write it's a bearish outlook because 50 has been lost, and the Bitcoin price could go lower, potentially go down to, say, boom boom boom, the support level. That is exactly how a beginner would write. But you can see that there is a good support level here, right? Let's see what happens to the price action next. Boom, we came back up again, went higher, cleared these highs over here, and then came back down. Take a look at the RSI, bounced above 50 again. Two fake outs, bounced above 50, right? Failed to produce a higher high over here relative to this particular high. It did produce a higher high, so now these highs were cleared over here. Yep, right? So now you can see the price has not come down to the support level, but the RSI is already hitting 50, right? This basically shows that the price has produced higher highs, but the RSI does not. I mean, technically, this was a very weak attempt at producing a higher high. If you look at it, you can clearly see that the RSI basically stayed in this level. I wouldn't consider this as higher high relative to this particular high. So, although the price has clearly produced a higher high, right? From this point to this point, it has clearly produced higher high, right? But the RSI has not produced higher high. Now, this is another divergence. This is what you would call an exaggerated divergence, which, it would definitely lead to a breakdown of this and then a further push lower. Right, let's see what happens. Boom. Broke down the support. Let's see. Retesting the resistance level. Getting rejected. Rejected. Right? Now let's take a look at what happens next. Right? It's bouncing off of the 30 or the overbought, the oversold level. Produce another low. Right now, first thing is that we have cleared these lows. Actually, we haven't. Right? Let's take a look what happens next. Okay. Right? Price is bounced exactly off of this level over here. Right? And now you can see this is a low. This is a lower low relative to this low. This is a lower low relative to this low. If you just take a look at what's happening here, is that the price has produced lower low, right? But the RSI has produced a higher high. Now, this is something, again, as I mentioned, this is what's known as a divergence. That is when the price makes a new high or low that is not confirmed by the RSI, right? Price has made a lower low here, but it's not confirmed by the RSI because RSI has produced a higher high and higher low instead. So this is a bullish divergence because the momentum shows it's increasing. What happens next? Boom, price goes back up. Now, a lot of the beginner analysts would write, would think that this is a bullish uh, outlook, and they would just say Bitcoin's bullish and it could potentially go up to blah blah blah, some sort of level, but it's not. It's not bullish, right? Because the price is now at a key resistance level. There could be rejection, which could push RSI back down, and this could be a failed breakout. Now let's see what happens. Okay, as you can see, the price is attempting to go higher. Let's see what happens next. Boom, rejected, right? Clearly rejected. Comes back down, produced a lower low. Okay, now let's take another look at this. Right, this is a low. This is a lower low relative to this low. this is a lower low relative to this low. Clearly, we produced three lower lows in a row consecutively. And you can see the RSI has produced another higher low relative to this low. Now, this is still a bullish divergence, which is not ended, right? Now, as you can see here, the last high that was cleared was over here, right? And basically, we have this high, which is not cleared. So that's going to be the next level that we're going to be taking a look at, right? If I were a trader, I mean, I am a trader. I would have taken a long here if I were observing this closely. Again, this is hindsight, so excuse me. So let's take a look at what happens. As you can see, the RSI has already come up to 50, but the price has not even moved up to this level. Okay. Now the price has moved above this. Now this would be premature long, right? Say I hadn't seen this, but now I'm looking at the RSI on a Bitcoin price chart on a daily level, and now this is where I should be longing. Now let's take a look at what happens next. Right, RSI, is this another rejection or is this a bounce, right? Now, if I were writing an article here, I would definitely write an article, a bullish article. But for beginners, they would definitely see this RSI is heading south, it's getting rejected at 50, so this is bearish, right? That's how they would interpret it. But let's see what happens next. Yep, this was bearish, flipped above 50, supported by 50, and now it's heading higher, right? Now, technically, your long, this long wouldn't be, wrong position to take, but let's see what happens next. There might be a wick down here, but let's see what happens. Boom, stopped out, right? So this is another lesson which goes to show that just because RSI has flipped 50, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to remain there for a very long amount of time. Now, 9th November 2022, this could have been an event. I'm not sure what that is. But that basically concludes on how you should be looking at the price action and the RSI. Again, we have a bullish divergence here because price has clearly produced a lower low on the daily time frame here. But the RSI has not confirmed it, and instead it's produced a higher low. Right? So let's see. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, another thing that I would like to point out here is that now I would like to draw this as a resistance level over here. Came very close to it. Rejection at 50. Boom. Now it's in the overbought zone, wildly overbought. A lot of the beginners would think this is bearish and that the price is going to reverse now and that they should be cautious. Now it is a fair warning considering that the Bitcoin price, is entering into a resistance level. Let's see what happens. Flies through the resistance. Yep, bounces off of 50 again. Bounces off of 50 again. Now this is another thing, right? Price has clearly produced a higher high, but that higher high is not produced by the RSI, which is a bearish divergence, right? Another thing that I want to mention here is that for divergences, Yeah, so the RSI has produced a higher high. The RSI has produced a lower high, but the price has produced a higher high, which was clearly a bearish divergence, and now the price is going lower. And the price has finally breached 50 as a support level. So this is definitely a bearish outlook. Right now, you could potentially see Bitcoin revisiting this level, but then again, there's another support here. It could visit the support. So let's see what happens. Blast through that support, reaches overbought, tips into the overbought, bounces off of 50 again. So this move was basically to clear the lows over here. Boom, clears the lows, clears the highs over here. And now it's clearly above 50. If I were writing an article here, I would look at this particular daily candlestick close, and I would say this was a massive failure to produce. Technically, it is a higher high, uh, no matter how you look at it, either the candlestick or the wicks. Okay, it's if you look at the VIX, it's clearly a lower high, right? So I would definitely be bearish on this. I would expect some sort of a pullback at around these levels over here. But to be honest, this looks very interesting over here. Okay, we don't get a pullback. Price continues to go higher. Boom, boom, boom. Okay, now look at this, right? Successively, if you do not know if its price has produced a higher high, just switch into the line chart, and you can clearly see there are higher highs being produced, right? Let's skip a little higher. Yep, higher high, right? Here, the RSI produced a lower low. Right now, this divergence, clearly it's a bearish divergence, right? Because the prices produced higher highs and the RSI has produced lower highs, which is a divergence, right? But the price does not technically go lower because this is an uptrending market, and in an uptrending market, it could produce divergences, but the resulting pullback or the correction that happens due to the bearish divergence is basically it's the correction is supported by a lot of buyers. Since it's an uptrending market, everybody's FOMOing, there's a lot of buying frenzy, so the price doesn't generally dig a lot lower, right? So you would be better off looking at bullish divergences during an uptrending market and bearish divergences during a downtrending market, right? So basically, in a bear market, fade any up moves. In a bear market, fade any up moves, and in a bull market, fade the down moves. Right? That's another suggestion that I would say. Okay, yep. So that basically concludes the this video and my take on RSI and how you should be looking at it if you're writing articles or if you're trading.